You've been studying English wrong this whole time. English is my first language, and over the past few months, I've done lots of research on the best way to learn English. In this video, I'll give you 6 steps that have helped people in my community learn English and improve their speaking. And if you're watching to the end of this video, I'll show you how you can do it in even less than 6 months. The first thing is something that everyone wants to do, but nobody actually does. If you want to learn English fast, you have to speak, and ideally, every single day. Now this sounds nice, but there are 2 main things that stop people from speaking English. The first is that they're scared of speaking English, and the second is they don't have anyone to speak with. Now when it comes to being scared of speaking English, most people don't speak English because they don't want to be shouted at or made fun of when they make a mistake, and that's completely natural. It's like, when you're scared of speaking English, you don't speak English, which means you can't improve and you can't get closer to being fluent. So how do you get rid of that fear? Because the reason you're scared right now is because you think that if you mess up or if you make a mistake, then something bad's gonna happen. And that's a natural fear, but the thing is, it won't happen. The only people who will make fun of you for not having perfect English or for making mistakes with your English are bad teachers. If they're a bad teacher, don't listen to them. People who can't speak English, who probably can't speak English, they probably can't speak English. And people who if someone makes fun of you for learning a new language and trying to improve yourself so you can, I don't know why you're learning English, but let's say you're learning it so you can go and get a job in another country to provide for your family. If someone makes fun of you or shouts at you when you make a mistake, you're trying to go to another country and provide for your family, then they're not a good person. The only people who make fun of you for not speaking perfect English, or who shout at you, or who do something bad when you make a mistake in English, they're not good people. So the only people who are gonna shout at you or get angry when you make mistakes, they're not good people. Don't worry about them. But the way that you can completely get rid of this fear is to practice with someone who's also learning English. Because when you practice with someone who's also learning English, they're gonna have the same fears and they're gonna make the same mistakes that you do. You're both gonna make grammar mistakes. You're both not gonna have perfect English. You might both have an accent. And when you have those things, if I have an accent, there's no way I can make fun of you for having an accent. And if I make a grammar mistake, then I physically can't make fun of you for having a grammar mistake. And if I mispronounce a word, then I can't shout at you for mispronouncing a word, because you're both at equal level. So it stops any of your fears happening. Not that they would happen in the first place, but it completely stops you from being afraid, because none of your fears can happen. You just need to get into your head that nothing bad will happen when you make a mistake. The only bad thing that happens when you make a mistake is now you have a chance to correct it. Nothing bad comes from making mistakes. And the way that you can start to realize that and learn it is to practice with someone who's also learning. Then once you realize that nothing bad will happen when you speak, that's when we can start speaking with native speakers, so you can practice your listening and other skills. But to get to that point, you should start speaking English with someone who's also learning. But that takes us to the second problem, which is, what if we don't have anyone to speak with? Well, the best way to find people to speak with is in English online communities. Now, the reason this works is because the people in these communities, they're there to practice English, so they want someone to speak with. Then the way that you can find these communities is online. I'll leave my community in the description. It's completely free. Or you can just search free English online community online and you'll find it. And then if you don't know how to start a conversation in these communities, you're not sure what to look for, the point of the conversation is to get their phone number so you can speak on the phone. But I'll leave a script and an example post that you can use in the description. But the point is to get their phone number so you can speak and practice with them over the phone. Ideally every single day. But there are 3 rules when you're speaking. And the first is to speak with someone who doesn't speak the same native language as you. If my native language is French and I speak with someone who also speaks French, then we're probably going to speak more French than English, which isn't going to help either of us. But if my native language is French and I speak with someone whose native language is Spanish, then we're going to be forced to speak in English, because it's the only language that we'll both understand and be able to speak. It will be the common language between us, which will make us, you'll be forced to speak English. That's what I'm getting at. And the second thing is to speak about topics that you enjoy. When you speak about something that you enjoy, you're naturally going to want to speak more about it. So you're going to use more adventurous vocabulary, and you're going to practice more because you're going to want to say more about that topic. You're going to want to learn so you can say more about the topic that you enjoy. And the third thing is that when you're speaking, use a dictionary or a translator. Because you're both going to be learning there are also going to be some things that you don't know, that both of you don't know, which is completely fine. But to stop you from making the same mistake over and over again, what you're going to want to do is to use a dictionary or translator, or just any source where you know it's going to be correct, to stop you from making the same mistake over and over again. Because when you make the same mistake over and over and over again, then it starts to become habit, and it's really difficult to fix. But the way you can stop this is using a dictionary or a translator. So if there's a word that you both don't know and you're both not sure about it, then it's completely fine to look it up to stop you from making the same mistake over and over again. And then another thing about speaking with someone who's also learning is on days where you don't want to speak, they're probably going to want to speak. So it's going to force you to practice English every single day, which is going to help you get better. And so if you can speak with someone on the phone for just 20 to 30 minutes a day, it'll really improve your English. Now 30 minutes might sound like a lot. When you enjoy what you're speaking about, it will go by so quickly. The second tip will help you improve your listening and help you have better conversations. The second tip in this video is listen to audiobooks. Now listening to audiobooks, it will obviously improve your listening, but also help you learn how words are pronounced and how native speakers actually speak. Because written work is good and reading books is really good, and I'm going to talk about that later, but the main part of a language is speaking and listening. And when you can practice your listening, that's what's going to help you improve a lot. Now the main thing about when you're listening to audiobooks is to listen to books that you enjoy. Because when you enjoy the story, you're going to pay more attention to it, and you're going to pick up more vocabulary, which will help you learn more. So that's the most important thing. Listen to a story that you enjoy. It doesn't matter the genre of the story, or if it's not a very complicated story. If you enjoy the book, that's when you'll learn the most. Now you can listen to audiobooks as you go about your day while you're doing something else, but the best way to learn is to sit down for 20 to 30 minutes and just listen to the audiobook, because that will stop you getting distracted, and it will just help you learn more vocabulary than you would if you were doing it while you did something else. Now there are going to be some words that you get stuck on, but don't worry about when you get stuck on a word. Don't feel like you have to go back and you have to rewind it to hear it. Because in a conversation, you're not going to hear every single word. Even English is my first language, and when I'm speaking to some people, I don't hear every single word they say. But it's completely fine. As long as you can understand most of it, then it's okay to not go back and keep listening. Now, if you want to go back and write down certain words or learn certain words, then that's completely fine. But don't feel like you have to go back, because when you're speaking to someone, you're not going to hear every single word. So it's kind of it'll help you practice for conversations where you don't understand every single word. As long as you can understand most of the story and most of what's being said, then it's fine, your English is improving. So where do you actually find audiobooks? Well, there are 2 websites that I'll give you, and they're both free. Now the first one is to help you get into audiobooks and help you start listening so the stories are a bit simpler. And the second one is for when you're more advanced. I'll leave both of them in the description as well. One tip I'll give you is that as you get more advanced with listening to audiobooks, is that if the book is too easy, or you feel like you can understand most of the story without really having to pay attention, you feel like you can just passively listen to it without having to pay attention, is to speed the story up to 1.2 times speed or 1.4 times speed. Because this is actually going to help you a lot, because it will mean that you have to pay more attention to the story to actually hear the words. But also, most native speakers, they speak quite fast. So when you're listening to the story in 1.4 times speed, it will be more accurate how native speakers actually speak. So that'll help you improve a lot. And again, if you don't catch every single word, then you can either slow it down or you can continue listening to it, but still try to understand most of what's happening. And if you want to go back while you're doing this, you completely can. But if you can just listen to an audiobook for 20 to 30 minutes a day, ideally you would just sit down and listen to it. But if you're really busy and you listen to it while you're doing something else, that will still help you learn, but it's not as effective. But if you can sit down and listen to an audiobook that you enjoy for 20 to 30 minutes a day and understand most of it, then your English will improve by so much. The third thing will make everything easier, but nobody seems to do it, and that's to think in English. When you think in English, speaking becomes a lot easier, because you don't have to translate in your head. It will stop you stuttering and help you sound more fluent. But you might think, now every single thought you have needs to be in English, but that's not true. The way you can start thinking English is simple. You just want to pick a task that you do every single day. Now, it doesn't have to be a complicated task. Examples could be laying your bed, brushing your teeth, or making breakfast. Just a simple task that you do every single day. Now, when you're doing that task, that's when you're going to think in English. And you don't have to think about a really complex topic or think about something really difficult. Just think about what you're doing in the moment, what you did yesterday, and what you're going to do today. An example could be, if I'm laying my bed, I would think to myself, right now, I'm laying my bed. Yesterday, I went for a walk. Today, I'm going to go to work. Just something simple like that. Like, you can literally just think that and your English will start to improve. Now, as you do this with the same task every single day, it's going to become easy for you. Because if you do that for like 2 weeks, it's going to be very easy for you. Now, when it gets easy for you, that's when you can start doing it with 2 tasks. So instead of just thinking English when I lay in my bed, I'll think in English when I brush my teeth as well. And when that gets too easy, I'll start doing it when I lay in my bed, when I brush my teeth, and when I make breakfast. And when that gets too easy, I'll start thinking English with essentially every single task that I do throughout the day. This will make it a lot easier when it comes to speaking, and you feel more ready to speak because you'll always be thinking English. So if someone just came up to you and started speaking English to you, you'd be ready to speak because you'd already have English words in your brain. And it just makes it a lot easier to speak. Now, when you're thinking English every day, there are going to be some words you don't know. And with these words, it's completely okay to look them up. Just make sure that after you look up the word, you use it as often as you can. So let's say I think in English when I brush my teeth, and I forget the word for toothpaste. If I look up the word toothpaste, then the next 3 to 4 times that I think in English, I'd make sure to use the word toothpaste. Because when you use the same word over and over again, it forces your brain to remember it, which is going to stop you forgetting it again. Now, there's another way to remember words and be able to use them in conversation, but it needs a little bit more effort. The 4th thing will help you learn words and remember words, and that's to create flashcards with words you want to remember. So basically, a flashcard is a piece of paper that has your native language on one side and English on the other. And so what you want to do is you want to write down an English word that you want to remember on one side, then the same word in your native language on the other side. Now, you can create as many as you want, but I'd recommend 15 to 20 to start with. 20 is ideal, but if you can only create 10 or 15, do as many as you can, but 20 is what I'd recommend. So you want to find a time where you can practice for 10 minutes and look at all the flashcards. So you want to have the side of your native language facing up and the English side facing down, so you can't see the English side. Now, when you see the side of your native language on it, I want you to say the English word out loud. Now, after you say it out loud, turn the flashcard over, and if you got the English right, put the flashcard in one pile, and if you got the English wrong, put the flashcard on another pile. Now, with the words you got wrong, you want to, so after you do the 20 words, you just want to leave the flashcards. Then with the words you got wrong, you want to go back and practice them tomorrow. Then with the words you got right, you want to go back and practice them 2 days later. Now, the reason this works is because with the words you got wrong, you want to practice them as soon as you can, so you can fix your mistake. But with the words you got right, you don't want to forget them. You don't want to think, oh, I already know this word, I'll never forget it. English is my first language and I've forgotten at least 1,000 words. There were so many words that I've forgotten simply because I haven't looked at them. So with the words you got right, you want to come back to them 2 days later because you already know the word, but you want to keep refreshing your memory so you don't forget them. And with the words you got wrong, you don't know them, so you want to go back to them and start to learn them. So you keep doing this every single day until you're confident with all the flashcards in the pack. And then eventually, when you're confident with all of them, you can create a new set of flashcards with new words that you want to remember. And this will help you remember them, and it will make it a lot easier to speak because suddenly you know 20 new words. And vocabulary is one of the biggest things when it comes to speaking a language. So knowing new words and being able to use them, that's what's going to help you. So with the words you get wrong, practice them tomorrow. And with the words you get right, practice them 2 days after. Now, when you do this, you'll see the same words over and over again, which help you remember them. And now there's something else you can combine with flashcards to remember more vocabulary, and that's the 5th tip. The second thing that you can do to remember words is to write down 10 words that you want to remember in English in your native language and put them on a door that you go through often. This could be a kitchen door, your bedroom door, maybe even your bathroom door. But this is the best thing you can do for your memory because it will force you to see words over and over again, which will help you remember them. Now, every time you see the piece of paper, you have to say the English words out loud. So you'll have the words in your native language on the piece of paper, and every single time you see the piece of paper, you walk past it, so you go into that door. You want to think to yourself, I'm going to say the word, I'm going to translate it and say the English word out loud. Now, if you can't remember a word, or you get it wrong, look up the word, but keep the piece of paper on that door. Now, this will help you because it will force you to see the same words over and over and over again, and even if you don't want to learn the word, it will force you to learn the word. But this will only work if every single time you see the piece of paper, you say all 10 words, because that's what's going to help you learn. Now, it will help you be more fluent when speaking, because you have 10 new words to use when you speak. But the main thing is, say every single word in English when you see the piece of paper, otherwise it's kind of useless. It's just a piece of paper with words that you already understand. So every single time you see the piece of paper, you go through that door or you walk past that door or whatever, make sure they say all 10 English words out loud. Now, if you get a word wrong or you can't remember it, look it up, but keep the piece of paper up. And this is why it has to be a door that you go through all the time. Because if it's a door that you go through once a day, then you're only remembering once a day. But if it's a door that you go through 5 or 10 times a day, then you're going to be practicing those words 5 or 10 times a day. That's really going to help your English improve. Remembering words will help you so much, but there's something else that will improve your communication skills by a lot. The last tip is something that you probably heard of, or you probably aren't doing, or you probably aren't doing right. The last tip I'm going to give you is to read. Now, reading will help you learn more words, which make it a lot easier to speak English. Now, I've probably tried reading before, but there are 3 things that you need to know to enjoy reading and to learn from it. Now, the most important thing when you're reading is to read a book that you like. There have been so many studies on it, and in all the studies, the person who enjoys the book always learns the most. Like make sure that you enjoy the book. Don't worry about reading a complex book or reading a book that has a lot of grammar structures or reading a book about a specific topic. Just read a book that you enjoy. That's the most important thing. That's one thing you take away from this video. Just read a book that you like and read a book that you enjoy. Now, the second thing is to read a book in a series. Now, when you read a book in a series, you'll see the same words and the same phrases and structures over and over again, which help you remember them. Now, this isn't as important as reading a book that you like, but if you can, read a book in a series. But if you can't read a book in a series, read lots of books on the same topic or by the same author. The point is that we just want you to see the same words over and over again to help you learn and remember them. So try and read a book in a series. If you can't read a book in a series, read lots of books on the same topic or from the same author. And the third thing is to read a book that has less than 6 new words per page. Now, when a book has less than 6 new words per page, you can learn new vocabulary and it will improve your English, but you won't have to use a dictionary when you read it. Now, if you want to use a dictionary when you read the book, that's completely fine. But when a book has less than 6 new words per page, you won't feel overwhelmed, you won't feel annoyed, this book has so many new words, it's so annoying, I have to look up every single word. No. If you want to use a dictionary while you read, that's completely fine, but you won't have to. So read a book with less than 6 new words per page. So you might be wondering, where can you find books to read? I'll put some books that I like in the description and some free online libraries. Now, if you can read for 30 minutes to an hour every single day, your English will improve by so much. Now, an hour might sound really, really long, but when you enjoy the book, it will go by so quickly, I promise you. That's why it's important to find a book that you like, because when you like the book, you'll naturally want to read more. You'll be more interested in the story, which help you learn more vocabulary. So read a book that you like, read a book in a series. If you can't read a book in a series, read lots of books by the same author or on the same topic, and read a book of less than 6 new words per page. Because if it has less than 6 new words per page, you won't feel forced to use a dictionary or to look up every single word. I'll leave all the resources that I talked about in the description, and I'll also leave my free community if you want to speak to me or speak to someone else who's also learning English.